Sabiha ma'am, Beo ma'am, on behalf of UK Asian Film Festival, I'd like to warmly welcome you both on the panel today for Good Morning Karachi. We had the screening yesterday, and yet again, it was well received. I think firstly, just beginning with both of you, the fact that obviously it released in 2013, and since then, there have been several changes in our world and society. How do you think the film finds resonance in current situations? Sabiha ma'am, we'll begin with you.
See, Good Morning Karachi is about a young woman who's ambitious and who wants to become something. And the fashion and beauty industry in Pakistan affords her that opportunity. But like all women, whether they are of the same class as Rafina or whether they are of a different economic background, we all struggle with demands on our time. It's always assumed that the demand on our time is first for uh, what our family needs from us, so we always have to look at that responsibility as the first responsibility, to please our parents, to please our brothers and sisters, husbands, children, and so on, and then only maybe go on to do something which is for ourselves. And so this is a struggle that the film tries to capture from the eyes of a young woman who wants to become something. And that's her first love. She wants to do something for herself. She knows that she has this brief window of opportunity before her mother marries her off. And so it's, in a way, of course, not in a way, but in a large way, it's really relevant to our worlds today. The same discrimination is going on all the time. We are always being told that ambitious women don't really have a place in society. They're actually going to mess up their lives. And more than that, they're going to mess up the lives of those people whom they should be responsible for. So it's a struggle all the way, and it's completely relevant in all in our world, and especially in South Asia. But I have found instances of family comes first everywhere, and a woman is selfish or judged as being selfish for taking steps for herself first.
Yes, it's very true. No, I totally agree with that as well. Bioman, what is your opinion on this as well?
I always looked at this film from this telescope, that there are two women. One is the older woman, one is the younger woman. And the older woman is the one whose dream never came true. And there this line that she uses, "Main bhi kuch ban sakti thi." So therein lies the pathos of the fact that she just remained a waxing woman, although she had talents and she could do many other things, but she was never able to. And then there is Rafina, who does get that chance. And Rosie Khala gives her that chance because she knows she never got that chance. And she says, let her get her dream, even if I did. I mean, that's how I looked at like the overall picture of Good Morning Karachi. The two women, one who did and one who did.
Rosie Khala
Yes.
is
Oh
a
wow.
mentor,
Yes.
and for Rosie Khala, I mean, Rosie Khala is the mentor for Rafina, and it's uh, it's a very heavy burden that Rosie Khala carries with her. To be fair to Rafina, and I think that and Bio did a great job of the selflessness that Rosie Khala must have within her to put Rafina's wishes above her own son. To not
Right.
to not sacrifice Rafina for her son, and she tries to make sense to her son that let her go, let her become something. Don't grudge her this opportunity, and so on. And I think that that's really a wonderful scene between mother and son when she comes out and she says what Bio quoted, maybe kuch ban sakti thi. I think that's a very intense scene between them.
Yes. Yes. And it is difficult for Rosie Khala because there's Ammi to be contended with, her marriage, her own son, and but yet there's something inside her which she feels for Rafina so strong. I mean, there are palpable moments in that rickshaw when you see the love. जब ये tease करती है उसको and she puts her head on her shoulder. Rosie Khala has a deep, like abiding
Yeah.
attachment to Rafina. That's how, I mean, I picked up and relayed it.
Definitely. No, absolutely. And I think I just loved Rosie Kala, and I love the dynamic that they've both shared, on screen. It was quite endearing and also heartbreaking to watch as well. But I think, Sabiha, I've observed a trait in some of your fictional works, actually. Whether it's Khamosh Pani or Good Morning Karachi, I've kind of noticed how a lot of your films are sort of headlined by characters such as a single mother or a widow, like how we had Kiran Kher's character in Khamosh Pani, an aspirational, independent young woman, like we had Shilpa Shukla's character in Khamosh Pani, and then here we had obviously Rafina. Um, and obviously we have and then we also have a radical young man who's a bit more misogynistic and a bit more patriarchal and a bit more extreme in comparison to the other two. So, has this been something you consciously decide to include in your narratives? I mean, what drives you to sort of include these tropes in your films?
Um, I think the fact is that I'm primarily a documentary filmmaker. That's where my training comes
Right.
from. You know? So
Indeed.
I bring my lived experiences to my films. All my films have a personal something that is very urgent, that needs to be told. I always find a corner of myself, even though I don't work at a beauty salon. I don't come from the same kind of economic background than Rafina. But the struggle that she has, the ambition that she has, is something that I have experienced. And as I saw the Pakistani film industry, the fashion, the beauty industry grow, and I saw how many women
Yeah.
were finding it possible to make their dreams come true. Because before this, what was there for them? They could either be receptionists or they could be clerks or, something very small. But
Hmm.
now they could have glamorous jobs. They could be actors, they could be models, they could be, working at beauty salons, they could be running a salon. Many opportunities came to life when Pakistan's media industry opened up in the early 2000s. And so when
Hmm.
I witnessed this kind of growth, I saw that there was really a chance to make a story that also resonated. It was relevant for our times, it resonated with young women, and resonated with my own struggle too.
Right. Yes, and I think also I wanted to actually add on here as well. So obviously, Good Morning Karachi is set amidst a time when Benazir Bhutto returned to her homeland to run for prime minister. It was set, I believe, at that time. So what was your intention of setting the film's narrative in this political backdrop, and how much of a pivotal role does the political climate of a film play in the overall narrative of a film, Sabiha?
Um, in Pakistan, we are never separate from politics. We just cannot be. I think it may be true of India too, but definitely of Pakistan, that political decisions constantly impinge on our lives.
Right.
And Benazir Bhutto was a very large figure, and a lot of women and a lot of people actually had a lot of hope in her and in the possibility of
Mm,
change for Pakistan. And when that hope was dashed,
right.
it is something to use for me to use as a background, because Rafina's boyfriend, her fiance Arif, is a political man, you know, and
Yes.
he is being guided by political machinations,
Mm,
and his information is coming to him from there, and he's not being allowed, or he's not allowing himself the chance to really think through these things. So this brainwashing that's coming to him, and he wants to run Rafina's life in that same way, and he doesn't understand why she looks to things differently, why she imagines a different world for herself. So the political background is always important because it is political happenings that
Yeah.
really, they're like a whirlpool. They draw Arif in, and by drawing Arif in, they draw Rosie into it, and finally, Rafina as well. But Rafina breaks out of it. But what breaks Rosie Khala is, of course, the death of her son,
Yeah.
or the disappearing of her son.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm. No, I remember. I wasn't expecting that actually. I think when I saw the film as well, I was very heartbroken because I think we wanted to see a moment where perhaps Rosie Khala does see that stage where Rafina does become successful and does sort of emerge triumphant. And I think the moment that happened, I think a lot of the viewers, I'm sure, would also agree with the fact that it was a very heartbreaking moment too. But I think, Beo, ma'am, what is your view on the political landscape in a film, and especially as an actor? I mean, in what way does a film's political and societal setting help you in the preparation of a role?
Well, as Sabia said, we are never really parted from politics. We are very, very sassy as a com. I mean, she's right. The subcontinent is like that. It seeps into every side of us.
Right.
And there is the scene in which I tear down that picture of Benazir and I say, okay, I have to put food on the table and stop all this nonsense because he's just a Jala who's not earning anything. So she did have a practical side to viewing all that political fervor her son was part of. And she realized the practicalities of life, how you have to earn your living, etc., and how politics can be really completely useless to you when you have to put food on the table. So there's
Yeah.
that paradox too, amongst our masses, although they may be paid to run to a rally for a plate of biryani. But the fact remains that at the end of the day, you go home to your starving children and to the realities, mundane realities. So yeah, siyasat is there, and for my preparation, I don't think I went deep into to any political. I just went back. I like a backstory, and as
Yeah.
Sabia used to tell us, stay in your spine. So we had to get into the character. I had a little issue with not talking like how I felt a waxing woman should talk. मैं ना फिर सैलून में काम करती हूँ ना तो मैं तो फिर ऐसे बात करूँगी ना. So I had to talk like Beo.
Right.
So yeah. So I don't think that the Rosie was political at all. Rosie Khala was not political.
No.
She was just very, I think, very grounded in
Mm,
her own reality, and I think possessed of some futuristic thought, which allowed her to think out of the box, if not
mm.
for herself. And she realized that her life had not turned out the way she wanted, but she really wanted it for Rafina, in spite of, as Sabia said, sacrificing her son.
Mm.
So if that answers your question.
No, it does. Oh, definitely. In fact, Vilma, I was going to actually add to that. I mean, as far as I know you as well, when we met at the promotions of Cake, I've kind of got to know you a lot more as well. And you are a very fun, forward-thinking, and I feel like Rosie Khala was like quite similar to how you
Yes.
are as a
Yes.
person, and I think it's quite interesting how you say that, because I feel like even though we've seen you do amazing work like in Cake and obviously in Ek Jhooti Love Story recently, I feel like Rosie Khala is perhaps your most character which resembles you the most, right? So how much of your, like, when you actually do other roles, how much of the personal aspects do you have to leave aside for other roles as well?
Actually, sometimes all of me is left aside to do a role, and
Mm,
some of me is borrowed in some.
mm,
A bit of you always creeps into your character, always does, in some form or the other. But I get very. I think when Sabia met me, she kind of saw a flash of Rosie Khala and me, perhaps as you say, and didn't even, audition me or anything. She just put me there, and I felt um, perhaps I could have done
huh.
better. I feel this. I feel I could have done better.
Really?
But yeah. One always feels, an actor always feels that I could have done better.
Mm,
But Rosie Khala was, yes, you're right. She was very endearing because she had a kind of funny side to her, in a kind of way. Ki, yeah, Rosie Khala ke piche nahi, no, nothing will happen in front of her. She's kind of out there. But yes, a bit of me was there in very much in Cake also, and
Sure.
also I think now I'm getting into roles where it's the outrageous person, the outrageous matriarch. So yeah, but actually speaking, for an actor, you just have to know the backstory of the character you're doing, and then
Mm,
it's the imagination that does the rest. If you have imagination
yeah.
in your build up, then you go deep into the character कि कहाँ पैदा हुई, कैसे बड़ी हुई, what were her aspirations, where was she dashed, where was she satisfied, and what are her dreams, and where is she headed.
Mm.
So then once you get that persona in you, then you start saying the things that person would say, not you.
It's so true. Yeah. And I often, when I interview a lot of actors as well, they say it's a process. Like, you sort of have to know how to switch on and off, between the characters. And I completely, completely understand and can, resonate with that thought as well. But I think, Sabiha, it's mesmerizing how buildings and the surroundings actually play instrumental characters in the film, actually. I mean, whether it's the
Yes.
communal apartment where Rafina lives. I mean, I feel like that is quite adversely juxtaposed with the hi-fi beauty salon of Radiance as well. So what sort of inspires your influences your vision as a filmmaker when it comes to such stories?
Karachi is such it's a very vibrant city. It's also a very divided city. Um,
Mm,
and the divide is really in that it has grown in a way whereby education has not really been afforded to everyone, and not the same kind of education. So, you have on the one hand Rafina, who's trying to learn English, Rosie, who's already kind of, because of her clientele and because of working at this hi fi salon, has already mastered the language. But you have people in Pakistan who are vernacular educated, and then the the ones who are educated in English as their first language, which is really kind of a schizophrenic situation
Yes.
where you have the colonial masters telling you this is your history, this is your language, this is what you're going to do, and this is who you are. So Rafina comes in the middle of this struggle as she's a vernacular educated person, but she knows she won't get far.
mm,
And the place where she comes from is a very crowded area of Karachi. It's the old colonial, side of Karachi with these old, very beautiful buildings. And then the hi-fi salons are more in the newly built-up areas of Karachi. But they really clearly show you a divide
mm.
in uh, in the kind of people who live there, who are aspiring to cross over, as it were, and who are wanting to, come into this new world. And this is where the struggle really lies.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you know what? Actually, I was just thinking this actually at the top of my head. Whenever I saw Rafina looking at that billboard, it kind of reminded me of The Great Gatsby. There's a scene in The Great Gatsby as well where one of the characters looks up to that billboard, and it's almost like foreshadowing the story. So it kind of reminded me a lot of that. I just wanted to kind of point that out actually to you, Sabiha. I kind of really like that whole element as well, actually, in the film.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a, I mean, it is a dream, but it's a dream which is also empty.
Mm,
She wants to be on the billboard, but when she gets on the billboard, I think she realizes the emptiness of it. So in the end, there is a kind of an understanding of how her work can actually lead to a bigger benefit for everyone, as opposed to just being on the billboard herself. And I think that that's very important, because that is something that I feel Rafina begins to understand after
Yeah.
her billboard burns.
mm,
That what is that about? What she begins to understand that it's not just being there for herself, but
mm.
it's being able to afford a better world for others too.
Sure.
No? Yeah.
Right. like a utopia of some sort. No, totally resonated with that as well. But I think a larger question I would like to kind of ask both of you actually, and Bio Ma'am, we'll actually begin with you for this one. I feel whenever a film sort of addresses systematic issues or patriarchy, I feel it's kind of considered brave and it's kind of considered courageous and all of those things. How do you, as creatives, feel about that? I mean, do you think perhaps public perceptions can change towards consuming such styles of cinema, Beo Ma'am?
I think cinema influences people a lot. I think the television and films and social media now is like is at its peak, and it is influencing people,
Yeah.
sometimes negatively, sometimes positively. So I think if there is a message you want to send out, or if you feel there's something in society lacking that you wish to address, it's an amazing medium by which to do it. It's an amazing opportunity for people like us, be it the writers, the directors, and all of us actors who are the face of it. But it
Mm,
does influence the ones that have that tendency of thought, and you get the opposite from those who don't. Like the ones who have been brought up with chadar or char diwari, that's their only reality. And there's a
mm,
vast majority of people in our country who are still at that level. Maybe we're all coming out of it into a less excessive, parda, char diwari, and chadar for women and repression. But the
mm,
people who are only used to this would see this as something else, whereas people who are dying to get out of their shells, get out of their char diwari, and go out there and challenge themselves and satisfy their longings and their dreams. They are very happy to see something like this, very encouraged to see something like this. But there's always division of opinion. There'll always be niche audiences, or people who will follow you, or people who will negate. But then it opens a dialogue. So
mm.
anything that opens a dialogue can't be unhealthy, because otherwise you're stuck in this narrow tunnel, having to follow one train of thought which you don't may not agree with.
Sure, indeed. Sabiha, what's your opinion on this?
I think it's a kind of ghettoization of women filmmakers. I think that's what's happening when they they ghettoize us, and they say, oh, we want women filmmakers, oh, we want uh, black filmmakers, we want, and and it is this ghettoization that we have to fight, really, in a way. And I think that fight has really come to the fore now. you know
Yeah,
we want to be part of mainstream. We
I
are
agree.
mainstream. We are
Yeah,
mainstream. What is this about? Oh, this is a very this is from a woman filmmaker, and this is, I mean, these are issues of our times. These
Mm,
stories are about us. So what?
mm,
Why are they being sidelined as something that is relevant only to a small minority of people? you know so I think that one has to
mm,
fight against that, and perhaps the fight becomes easier now because there are many more
I
people,
think, yeah, yeah.
and because we have to be accepted in the mainstream
Hmm.
with all our talents and all our points of views. And because if we are left, I mean, to fight the battle from outside is, of course, so much more difficult, which we have been doing
mm.
forever.
Right.
So I feel that things are beginning to change, and I hope
I
for the
think so.
better,
Yeah.
and
Mm,
world over. And I feel that this is the time when a lot more voices can come in and make that difference really, work.
absolutely. I mean, do you also feel though that perhaps there is a lot of undue pressure on cinema to evoke or act as a catalyst towards social change as well, Beo Ma'am?
Mm, I'll have to think about that one. Pressure to change. I don't know, but what Sabia is saying, I totally agree with it, because I don't like this sidelining ke ye, slots, for people like officers on special duty.
Mm,
No, It's got to be mainstream because these are human beings with talent, talent to depict, talent to portray, talent to go on a larger stage and share new ideas. And I think we're getting there because people are now starting to accept things like all the new age films that are coming up, chudels and this and that. And a lot of things are happening. Women are doing things that are being, because, it takes time when the change comes from the old ways. And some of the new people, the brave people, as you said, pay the price and they get hit with it. But as you keep on, if you roll over and die, then they succeed in pushing you down. But if you keep going, and there are people who are very brave, very courageous, and keep going, it's a woman's world now out there, becoming normal. That it's okay, it's normal to do it. Of course, there'll still be the naysayers, there'll be the trolls, but it doesn't matter. Then they are known as trolls. So people who want to appreciate good cinema, or who want to hear a good message relayed, they will watch us, whether it's a woman or it's a man, whether it's black or white or Shia or Sunni or Indian or Pakistani, or doesn't matter. If the matter is good and it's got substance and it's coming from a place of integrity, there'll always be people who want to watch it and take a message from it. This is how I feel. I agree with Sabia that it's just should not be put in a slot. It's people who have a penchant for doing, for being creative in a certain particular way, and they put their stuff forward, and it's appreciated or not. And it does change minds because
Indeed.
it's thought provoking. People do start to think when they
Exactly.
see. Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I feel.
Films absolutely, no, very well said. And I think what films do, they plant the seed in, and then obviously as thoughts combine, as you kind of observe the world, it kind of just grows and grows slowly, and then before you know it, you have a plant. And I think it's quite well put as well. But I think even last year as well, Jurels was a trailblazer, I think, in bringing sort of thorny and deep rooted issues to the forefront through the medium of entertainment. I mean, what sort of paradigm shift would you like to see now in terms of the Pakistani content emerging now, whether it's on OTT platforms or in cinema? Sabiha?
I think that a lot more stories need to come out from Pakistan, and we need to really be building a body of work which is moving away from what our dramas have done, which is to show a very submissive, demure woman who's always sacrificing for the good of the family and so on. So whether they are as bold as Churels or it's something else, I don't know. But I think that what we do need is a look at our real lives and to find new experiences that are true to us, true to our society, to come out, you know. So I think the content, the way we look at content has to change, because content so far has been manufactured to suit a very patriarchal society. And now it needs to be looked at in a more realistic way, you know,
Yeah,
and we need to bring out our lived experiences in our stories. And there are lots of different voices. For example, last year was a blur, sorry, but 2019, I did a script writing workshop together with Locarno Film Festival, Open Doors, and we invited Pakistani script writers to come and work with us. And we had, there were 3 script writing teachers and, tutoring them. And we had some amazing stories coming from Lahore, from Balochistan, um, from Karachi, and all over the place. But none of these stories have been picked up by anybody to be made,
how sad.
because they don't fit. They don't fit the given
Huh.
framework of storytelling in Pakistan right now. And the very sad thing is that, Pakistan does not have Netflix, doesn't have Amazon, doesn't have any of the OTT platforms. So it's very hard for Pakistanis to sell their work for a larger, wider audience, also for the diaspora and for the world to see.
Sure.
Because it is politically, economically, a very strategically, a very, very important place. And its true voice should be coming out, and stories should be told from what is the real Pakistan, you see, not what we see on
Right.
television, which is quite a manufactured reality. So I think that's really very important, and I hope that somehow in time to come we will make stories that are entertaining as well as informative and that are viable commercially. And I'm
Yeah.
sure that that mix is very possible. The talent exists, amazing talent exists. It's a matter of honing that talent and giving it that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Beo ma'am, would you like to add anything to that as well?
Well, just this that there are audiences for every kind of genre. I mean, just recently, the two new ones from Pakistan that went out on Z5 streaming channel, that's the opportunity they got. So they put their work out there, are two completely different from Mary Jabbar and from Asim. Chudels is like kind of really out there, new age, in your face, and the young people have just loved it. Maybe the older generation has said, huh, a bit of that, but expect it. But it's like it's hit somewhere. Whereas Jury
Yeah.
Love Story is a very gentle story, which the family can sit and watch. So I've got so much feedback from India to tell me that it was nice to be able to watch it with my parents and my grandparents. So they're takers for that as well.
Yeah.
So it's the story you have to tell. It's the
Yes,
story you have to
Mm.
put forward. It doesn't have to be one kind of story, but we should get away from, as Sabia said, woman the victim. So that's why so many matriarchal roles are coming up in a sense, because women are very strong. It's the men who get, and they don't have to be weak, but they have to be like on a level, not be upar se, not be domineering
Ah,
and suppressing. So I think it's happening. I think women are coming out and saying their piece in whichever way they feel it, and I think people are accepting it in every different kind of genre, as long as it doesn't remain, as Sabia said, the same old घिसी पिटी submissive औरत जो पिट रही है और रो रही है constantly. I think वो रोना बहुत हो गया.
huh. I think that's true actually, because I think like even thanks to perhaps even filmmakers, commercial filmmakers like Shoaib Mansoor, who has obviously always brought out issues or perhaps topics to do with women and their sort of plight in Pakistan as well. I mean, of course, they're quite serious, but I think perhaps maybe more light-hearted films, which are more relatable, I think, of today's day and age, I think is perhaps something we need to see, right? Would you agree,
Yeah.
Sabiha?
yes. I
Yeah.
mean, for sure, that is very true because, um, you know, uh, for me, storytelling is a way of exploring our world and then pushing
Yeah.
that world to become better. So you don't just tell the
Mm.
reality, you don't just say what's happening, you go beyond it and you say what you would like to see happen. For
Mm.
example, in Good Morning
Yeah.
Karachi, you have the struggle of this young woman and her journey. But in the end, she shows you what she wants to see happen. She puts Rosie Khala, you know, and she gets her to unveil her burqa, right?
Uh,
So, she's pointing towards a
Mm.
new world, a
yeah.
new time for women, and
Yes.
an emancipation. So I think it's important in whatever way we tell our stories. And if you look at good stories told anywhere in the world, you will see that there is a forward movement in that storytelling. It sets out
Mm.
what is, it sets
Yeah.
out the struggle, and it sets out a resolution which should point to a way forward. And that's the power of cinema,
Mm.
that
Definitely.
because it reaches out. I mean, it's the
Mm.
most dominant and the most powerful
Mm.
medium we have today in our hands. So
Yes.
why waste it? Why waste it to um, tell stories that are not really moving our world forward? See that when we are staying
Mm.
in the same whirlpool, of a victim
Mm.
woman, a bad man, unfair life, and so on. I mean, how are we going to change this world? And why I like making films is because it gives me the power to show a different world, the
Hmm.
possibility of that different world, you
Yeah,
know, in as
Yeah.
realistic a way as possible. But it's pointing towards something that we can all together achieve,
yeah,
you
yeah.
see?
Hmm.
So,
Sure. Yeah, no, definitely. And I think a lot of the times when I speak with a lot of creatives as well, they often say film mirrors society and society mirrors films. But like you said, Sabia, I totally agree with the fact that, we have, I mean, as creatives, they have the power to also show an alternate, solution to perhaps an issue that already exists. And I think that it's also in their sort of discretion to kind of use that as, like I said, as a catalyst in certain way. I mean, Beo, ma'am, I think a bit of an extension of that question to you. I mean, what sort of a character would you like to play that kind of, I think, I guess perhaps showcases a change or a difference to sort of the society or the world we live in?
Well, I have a background and history of comedy.
Yeah,
So I do see the absurd
of
in
course.
a lot of things. And I do want the subcontinent to lighten up a little bit. That's my particular take on it. So I do inject a little bit of my own personal bakwas into every role I do. I do innovate, and people let me do it kindly enough. So I do
Yeah.
want. There is you see, there is a serious side to life, but as Sabia said, we don't have to necessarily say it exactly as it is. We have to give it artistic license. We have to take it and make it present it in a manner that we get some point across. So my point always
Mm,
is to heal, a, by wiping someone's tears away, by making them laugh, or to just let them feel that, yeah, the rest of us are out there, and we can take this lightly, we can make light of it, we can laugh at it, we can make you laugh, and we can laugh too.
uh,
So if you ask me what kind of characters I would like to do, I'm very, very aware of pathos and tragedy. No comedian is ever not aware of that. So
mm,
हम लोगों का काम ये, we know pain very well, we are sponge for
uh,
pain, but we are the transformers. हम लोग
yeah.
transform करते हैं, because we need to take that pain and turn it into, because when you laugh hearty, you kind of healing, your cells are rejuvenating when you involuntarily laugh. So
Mm,
I would like to do something which would be realistic and not try to be ham or funny, but just to be funny without trying to be funny, and tell a story. That's what I would love to,
yeah.
so that you engage the people who are watching in a kind of healing and therapeutic way,
Oh, yes.
but yet
Wonderful.
have a story.
I think it could happen. I would love to just see a film with Beo ma'am just headlining, just with Beo ma'am just in the film, and her sort of discovery of life and different sort of challenges, and her discovering perhaps a passion which perhaps got left behind as well. Basically, almost like Rosie Kala, just on her though, and without her dying in the film, of course, just
Yes,
her
with
living. I think
dying,
that
yeah.
would
Died in cake also. But
that would be
listen, thank God I lived in Jhoti Love Story. I thought उधर भी मुझे off कर देंगे. Of course. But I feel that Good Morning Karachi was a trailblazer. It was the first of its
right.
kind. It set a trend of the modern filmmaking. And I learned a lot actually from Sabia, because Sabia had a workshop in which she would have all of us emote to each other, talk to each other. She said, talk to each other about the time when you were humiliated, not when you were in grief. Now, that's something we never share. If you can share a time
Mm,
when you were insulted or humiliated, you've really opened up to that person. So she wanted us all to be very connected and open to each other, and then to stay in that spine, not get out of it, to stay in the character even when you were off duty and munching your roti and salan for lunch. You still had to stay in your spine. So it was a big joke with us: stay in your spine. So Rosie Khala stayed in her spine, all right.
yeah.
And I think that it was the first of its kind. And kudos to Sabia for being really very brave woman. She's a very
Oh,
brave woman.
She is, and I think Sabiha already knows how much of a big fan I am of her work. So I think definitely kudos does go off to Sabiha. But I think on a final note as well, post Good Morning Karachi, and obviously having done some brilliant work, both of you as well. What other projects are you working on, and what can we look forward to as well, Sabiha?
I'm working actually on an international sort of multicultural series at the moment, a TV show, and I'm really looking forward uh, to see that happen. We've just written the pilot, and yeah, so that's on the fiction side of things. I'm also producing the film of a young Pakistani director. It's his first feature film,
Oh wow!
so I'm producing
Wow,
that, and we
well done.
go hopefully go into the shoot later this year. So fingers crossed for that. And other than that, there's a documentary that I've been working on, and last year we should have made some progress on it, but unfortunately, it was such a crazy year, and this year continues to be crazy. We
Continues
can't
to be
pretend that everything happened last year. So let's see how that progresses. It's a documentary about water, and it concerns the struggle over water, which is
Wow!
21st century's most
Oh,
wanted
yes.
resource.
Yeah.
Wow!
So, yeah. So these
That
are the three projects that I'm currently involved with, and I hope that they all happen.
Wow, well, that definitely sounds very, very exciting, and I think I'm definitely rooting for that and highly anticipating that. Bio, ma'am, what about you?
I'm saying that knowing her indomitable spirit, they're going to happen, and I look forward to seeing each and every one of them. I still have to see the one with the documentary with Kalki.
Yes, we were
Yeah,
talking about that actually
yeah.
before. Yeah,
Before we started, yes. Yeah, you were asking me about me. What
yeah.
am
As in,
I
what project,
doing?
yeah, what projects can we look forward to from you?
Okay, so with me, because I live in London, I miss out on a lot of stuff. But there is something I'm doing now, inshallah. It's for again for Z.
Oh wow!
It is. And I'm playing a interesting character with Minu and Farjad.
Okay, wow, wow.
So
That sounds.
I'm looking forward to that. The shoot is in March. So
Oh wow, that sounds very exciting as well. I think after a Jhuti Love Story, I think we're kind of waiting to see more as well from you as well. I think both of you actually, as a director and as an actor. But I think I'll just like to take this opportunity and just thank you both actually for joining us today on the panel and speaking with UK Asian Film Festival for Good Morning Karachi. It's a very trailblazing film, and Sabiha, you're absolutely fantastic, and Beo ma'am as well. I mean, आपको मतलब तारीफ भी कम होती है आप दोनों की. So thank you so much for
Surpalli chokri Sabia. Surpalli chokri. ये जेबुन.
क्या बोलती है तू? करती
ए
क्या
तू
है?
बता ना तेरे
वहां
को
पे
क्या है
देख
भाई.
रही है तू, तो मेरे से नाराज हो गई है लगता है.
मैं नाराज नहीं हूँ तेरे से. कभी हो नहीं सकता. क्या बोलती तू?
right. We definitely need to see Beo ma'am in playing a Gujarati character super soon now. I think
No,
definitely.
no, Sabia and I have to do
Yeah,
this together.
actually.
We have to do this together in something.
That's
You
what I'm
and I
saying.
have
It
to do
works. It flows like
एक सुकड़ी और एक जाड़ी.
एक जकाड़ी एक
हाँ,
एक सू और
एक
सूर
सुकड़ी एक
पल्ली.
जाड़ी.
हाँ,
अपन करेंगे ना, ऐसा प्रोग्राम करना है.
ऐसा तो करना है. अनुज को बोलना. अनुज भी तो बोलता है.
I'll end up like speaking like an entire monologue in Gujarati at this rate, to be
Oh,
very
please do it for us. Do it for us. Come on.
oh God, I will. But I think on
Add a bit of levity.
well, I
Hey,
would like
Anuj, तू बोलता है गुजराती बोलता है.
I think
तू
on what
बोलना.
I can definitely say કે તમે બે સાથે વાત કરવામાં બહુ જ આનંદ આવ્યો મને. Basically,
Ah,
that I really enjoyed speaking with you both. And I'm very, very અને હું ધન્ય થઈ ગયો કે તમારી સાથે વાત કરવાનો અવસર મળ્યો, which means I actually
okay.
feel very blessed I got the opportunity to speak with you both. So
Yeah, we got that.
Yeah. So on that note, but thank you so much, Sabiha ma'am, and thank you, Beo ma'am, for joining us on UK Asian Film Festival for Good Morning Karachi. Thank you so much.